All right, everybody. I took a little break from recording. I had some other stuff to do. I got very rusty, man. I just fumbled over the first couple slides. So let's do this again. A good take. Anyways, best UFC fighters to be undisputed champion in each weight class or never win a belt, whatever. Fan requested this, so I'm gonna put it in. I actually had a lot of fun with this video, to be honest. This is one of the more thoroughly researched ones. I had a lot of fun doing this. I tried. Also, I'm gonna warn you. I tried not to go with the consensus pick, so some feathers might get ruffled. I try not to pick like the obvious guys that everybody says. I wanted to bring some new faces into the light. Because I think it's a very interesting world talking about how good fighters are, especially when they're not champions. It's very hard to rank, gauge, all that. Anyways, another disclaimer: a lot of these guys start out in like WEC, Strikeforce, or Pride, so that's some hints there. And some of those wins they have over the names I'll list are in those, not in the UFC. I didn't. It's not a UFC. It is a UFC list. But if you fought a guy in another organization that then fought in the UFC and was successful in the UFC, I bring it up. Or like WEC's case, they merged companies and absorbed the weight classes. So WEC was basically the UFC. You know what I mean? Just cut me some slack in this video. I tried to do some non-conventional picks, and as a result, a lot of stuff like Strikeforce people and Pride and WEC people came into the mix. But overall, you'll see them, and they were good in the UFC. I didn't pick anybody like that was like a Tim Kennedy, for example, that was pretty good in Strikeforce that wasn't as good in the UFC. You know what I mean? I didn't do anything like that. Or like a Miguel Torres, or like a Jeff Caron. I didn't do any of those picks. I tried to keep it pretty UFC oriented. Anyways, there are some like exclusive straight UFC ones. Anyways, speaking of Pride and Strikeforce, heavyweight, I picked Alistair Overeem over Fabricio Verdum. I know Verdum's the consensus pick. I'll try to mention consensus picks here and there, just to give people some shout-outs. Anyways, good fighter, great kickboxing, very underrated, I think, in terms of the wrestling and jiu-jitsu that he evolved into. Obviously, started out as a kickboxer, did a lot in kickboxing, but he became super well-rounded with his age. I mean, again, widest man in the belt. I don't know. It's just what it is. Longevity is insane, man. It's the best longevity in combat sports, really. I mean, think about it. His career started in 1999, and he retires in 2021. And he was basically, like, again, one of the better kickboxers in the world in the K1 era, and he was also, like, top 5. He was consistently top 5 in 2 different combat sports at the same time for several years, which is crazy. Like, no credit. We came. It still baffles my brain because no one's. I mean, we also have guys like Alex Burr. They came from kickboxing, but Alex Burr isn't a glory champion right now. Imagine if he was a glory champion right now, and he was a champion, who'd be insane at so many levels. That's what Overeem was, bro. He was a K1 champion. He was a Pride tournament frequent, and then he obviously evolved into the top heavyweight division in the UFC. Just absurd longevity. Anyways, and this is UFC history, by the way. I do the divisional history. I just want to get that out of the way for everybody. But he is second in knockdowns landed, fifth in KO/TKO wins, ninth in finishes, and overall wins. Like I said, UFC heavyweight history. I want to include records because it paints the picture of their toolkit for me, or at least maybe other people. The cons, 19 losses. I'm obviously not going to go point by point 19 losses and make this video 40 minutes long, but he fought a good comp, lost a good comp. Can't really say much. That's all I have written down here. And then he lost on the title shot to Stipe, which really sucks because, again, imagine if the guy had a belt. He's got everything else. We'll get into the comp. He has the longevity. He has the skills. He has the physical attributes, obviously, with some assistance, but doesn't have the belt. It just sucks. And again, that was Stipe when Stipe was just destroying everybody. He almost got Stipe, too. He almost got him, but just couldn't finish the job. I think he's a Hall of Famer either way, personally. I think if he had a belt, he'd be undeniable. All right, now this one, we kind of obviously know he was in PEDs and call it nitpicking, but he did fail a PED test in Glory Kickboxing during his time in kickboxing. So he has failed the PED test under a commission, so there's no more suspicious, is it, he never failed the test, which is obviously, we know he's on PEDs. He's wink, wink, horse meat, like he's very open about it in the most legal way he can be. Didn't fail the test in MMA, obviously, so we can't really use that argument. But again, like I said, the nitpicking Glory Kickboxing failed the test. I mean, he was a very bony 205er, and then all of a sudden became an absolute monster at a 280-pound heavyweight. I mean, he also literally grew in height. I think he was 6'3" when he was first starting, and then he got the heavyweight. He was like 6'4", 6'5", depends on what the measuring tape was like. Again, I know it's an inch, but still, that's weird. People don't normally grow an inch when you're a grown adult. That doesn't normally happen. You could also say it's the big traps that portray, but no, I've read some things from some people basically saying, no, he definitely grew in height over time because of all the PEDs he was doing, allegedly. Well, he failed it, whatever. Resume of wins, Vitor Belfort twice, Mark Hunt twice, Fabricio Verdum twice, Brock Lesnar, Frank Mir, Stephen Struve, Roy Nelson, JDS, Andrei Arlovski, Sergey Pavlovich, and Alexei Oleinik. If you haven't noticed, I'm going to be a little more lenient in terms of good wins for the sake of this video because, again, if you're not a champion, you're not really fighting the best of the best, per se. All right, light heavyweight. This is one of the more clear-cut guys, one of the consensus guys, Gustafsson, and that's for a reason. Well, we got to ignore Rumble in my case. I want to talk about Gustafsson. Rumble, you're great, RIP, you're a legend, and you beat Gus, but let's just ignore him for a little bit. I'll find a way. I talk about Rumble enough. I'll find a way to put him in some of these videos, give him the respect that he deserves. Anyways, Gus is a great fighter, very well rounded, stand up and grappling, both great. I mean, he's very lengthy. I think it's the real strength. He was just super massive. You know what else is massive? But he's a big dude. What was he, 6'4"? I mean, probably 225. He was very skinny to make his cuts, I would say, but he's looks very comfortable now in the GFL or 230 GFL. And again, he gave John arguably his toughest fight. I mean, you could say that the Reyes fight, which he objectively lost, was tougher, but I mean, Reyes didn't put him in a hospital bed. Gus did. And I honestly had it 3-2 Gus, so whatever you want to say, but that's very good. So you weren't a champion, but you gave the champion the toughest fight essentially of his career at the time, and arguably his ever. Now Gus is 5th in knockdowns landed, 8th in finishes, 9th in significant strikes, and TKO wins or TKO/KO wins in UFC light heavyweight history. And the Collins obviously 8 losses. Now let's just kind of see if I can build it out from the heart here. So DC, that's a good loss. You know what I mean by good loss. Like if you lose to a good comp, I'm not really gonna knock you. Very close fight too. Gave DC a close fight. John was on roids the second fight. So and the first one was close. I don't really count those two. Verdum also good opponent, good loss. Kirillov is debatable. What other ones? I know Anthony Smith. Oh. Let's just go with Anthony Smith. Anthony Smith obviously the bad loss. I think he's another one mixing there that's pretty bad, but it's whatever. Oh, I have my notes. Never mind. I don't know. I'm not reading up my notes. Oh, yeah, Phil Davis. Phil Davis was the other name. Phil Davis was the bad loss. I mean, whatever you want to say about me being salty about John being on steroids second fight, I mean, he failed in the commission, so they literally had to move it to a different state. It's a fact. You can look into it. It's on Google. You can use your brains, John Jones fans. I know you don't really use them often. But yeah, so I call it a no contest personally, and his only real losses are like I said, the Verdum, the DC, the Kirillov, and like the Phil Davis and Anthony Smith. Even then, the DC loss, you could argue he won again. Like his losses were close. I don't think the 8 next to his name portrays the correct picture. 3 of them, well, one of them was on steroids, so 2 of them were close. So it was about 6, 18 and 6, And then Phil Davis is pre-UFC. You call it whatever. And we don't really blame me for pre-UFC losses. Pretty much. I guess I'll just go to the wins now. I kind of ran out of things, kind of stumbled off my train of thought. But Gus, wins are Matt Hamill, Shogun Hua, Jan Blachowicz, Liberty Teixeira, and Jimmy Manoa. I forgot to put Jimmy Manoa in my notes, but I remember that one. I mean, pretty decent wins there, especially because Glover and Jan aged beautifully because they became pretty good champions. Shogun, pretty good. Matt Hamill's debatable, but again, we're going to be very lenient here with the wins. Now, for middleweight, I picked Joel Romero. I know that might seem a little controversial because there's a name that we'll get to, but he's a good fighter, man. Great wrestling, good chin, good stand, very powerful. Obviously, super athletic. I mean, mixing the flying knees like he did to Weidman. Like just he was a monster, bro. He was a boogeyman. He was a very scary dude. I mean, any way you slice it. I mean, he has all the tools. I don't know if he had the IQ or the ring experience, whatever you want to call it. I think that was the real issue was the experience, and his age was also an issue. I know he doesn't age well, but like your reaction time ages, even if your body does, and stuff like that. I mean, basically, it's 2 different careers: his Olympic career and his MMA career. So like that's pretty sick for him. I mean, he's 4th in knockdowns landed middleweight history. Also, is he 4th in TKO? Yeah, there's TKO wins, and he's 9th in finishes overall in UFC middleweight history, which is very good. I mean, given he was only in the UFC for 9 years, and 2 of those he was like I think suspended or something. He was gone for 2 years, so only 7 years, and you're in like the record books. That's pretty good, dude. 9-4, and you're in the record books. That's pretty good, dude. You did do something right. And they called 7 losses. One of them was pre-UFC, and some of them were Bellator fights. So I'm just gonna skip those. But Robert Whitaker twice, not a bad loss at all. That's great, especially if they were pretty close fights. I haven't watched them. But one of them split decision, and I got a big Robert Whitaker enthusiast. So he was, like they're close fights. I mean, I've heard people say Yoel beat Rob, but again, I haven't watched the fight, so I'm not gonna say anything. But they're on my list, And then Prime Paulo Costa in a close 29-28 fight. I mean, honestly, when I watched it, I called it not a draw, but like I could see how both guys won. It's still one of the fights where it's like I couldn't pick a definitive winner. I think it really depends on your criteria. I think Costa did enough because obviously when he had stumbled Yoel and all that stuff, that's like that's pretty impactful because Yoel. I know it's a little biased or whatever, but like that's pretty impactful. Close fight, whatever. And then obviously, the title fight loss to Izzy is rough. We don't really want to talk about that, but it's just an unfortunate way considering he was this boogeyman to put on these crazy finishes, and his performance is going to overshadow all of them was his boring title fight against Izzy because Izzy didn't want to approach him because Izzy knew he would get absolutely destroyed if he did approach him too much. Now, well, some other names, if you don't care about PEDs, I mean, Chael Sonnen, obviously, he's the consensus, but PEDs plus he was what 7-7 in the UFC. I know I don't normally use records, but in cases like that, it's pretty tricky. Pretty tricky. And then obviously Dan Henderson is another one. Jacare originally was who I had, but he's 9. He's 9-9. Yoel beat him. That's why Dan Henderson was one that's 9-9. I mean, you could even throw a guy like Paulo Costa in there if you wanted to say because gets the head to head because he beat Yoel. I mean, even like Jared Cannonier could get the nod. I feel like Jared Cannonier is a pretty solid one. Maybe I don't think it's enough. Let's just say maybe Hamza, but Hamza has to add a little more. But like there's some guys you could add there. It's not it's a very open ended division, I would say. But for me, UL gets it, and we'll get into why in a second. Anyways, this is the second. UL's wins are Derek Brunson, Brad Tavares, Tim Kennedy, Yota Machida, Jacare, Chris Weidman, and Luke Rockhold. Especially when only 2 of those were decisions. That's really good that you're finishing high level comp. That's why UL got the nod for me, but I would not die on this hill, I'll be real. This is one of the weird records I'm referring to, Carlos Condit. Now, I give him the edge because he beat the consensus guy of Nick Diaz. That's who everyone always says. Nick Diaz was not 500 in the UFC, maybe, I don't know. There's a lot of guys that were just like 500 in the UFC where it's like, were they that good? And the Condit less than 500 or 50%. I don't know why I'm thinking. I think 500. I don't know. I think it's NBA. I mean, I don't know. But 50% win rates. Condit has less than, obviously. But we're just gonna ignore that. We'll get to that. Condit, man, good fighter, well rounded, good mix of the kickboxing and the wrestling. He did a great job of both. I mean, very good chin, good cardio. He was a killer, dude. He's a natural born killer. I know it's a con or not con. It's just a what's the word? Con. I don't use con. A pun. There you go. I don't know where that came from. I'm a little bit rusty in the YouTube game right now. Champion 2 promotions in the WEC. Champion who's also interim champion in the UFC. So that's pretty good. Guys got some good pedigree. You know, he fought some good promotions, fought some good guys. In the UFC, he's 7th in total strikes landed in welterweight history, and he's got 28 finishes, which is really good. And then this is why I put him up there. Elite finishing clip of 83% in how many fights? 46 fights. That is nuts. That is an elite clip of finishing. That's why they call him the natural born killer. Because he could finish, bro. He was finishing you, bro. He was killing you, literally. Well, not literally, but in the ring, you know. Now the cons, 14 losses is a lot. He avenged 2 of them, so we're just gonna toss those to the side, and then we're gonna just not. I mean, the UFC. I don't want to talk down about 14 losses. A lot of them are non-UFC, so let's just not talk about them because there's 14 losses. I don't want to go point by point for 12 losses, but he fought good comp and he lost a good comp. Well, he had a weird ending to his career where he fought questionable comp and lost a questionable comp. But who hasn't done that? Let's be real. Like Anderson Silva also did that. So, anyways, there's a lot of good names to pick from off at the title shots. Well, he did lose 2 title shots. GSP and then Lawler. Lawler's low key a robber, which I think can give him the edge. You can make the argument that he beat Lawler, so he is like gets some credit there. I mean, he beat his champion, kind of like the Gustafsson one, where he technically beat his champion in the eyes of the people, not the judges. So I think you get an argument there, get some brownie points, right? That's what they call it. I'm getting back in the swing of things. The too many names thing. I originally had Jake Shields here. Jake Shields is super underrated, and he did beat Condit. That's pre-UFC in a tournament, so a lot of salt on that one. It wasn't a grain of salt. It was like a whole thing of salt. You know, a lot of salt. But let's just some other names that come to mind. Obviously, Nick and Nate Diaz. Either of them you could argue. Donald Cerrone is a Hall of Famer, and he fought really good comp. Surprisingly, considering he wasn't never a champion or. He got 2 title shots, 1 or 2 title shots. Yeah, fought very good comp. I mean, John Finch was one that came up on a lot of lists. Wonder Boy also super underrated. He doesn't have the volume, but his comp was really good. Chego Alves is one I think is super underrated. I mean, he did he beat Matt Hughes, just that gives you something. He fought GSP, so if you get in there with GSP, you're good. I don't want to hear it. Especially champion GSP, like long range champion. Jorge Masvidal, even though I don't like him. I mean, like, heck, even a guy like Colby, because he beat Masvidal, you could argue he could get on here. That's pretty. RDA. Or no, RDA was welterweight champion. He's lightweight. My bad. Calm down. But, like, I mean, I'm trying to think of other guys in welterweight. There's a lot of good welterweights that weren't. I mean, Matt Brown, if you wanted to say so, because longevity. It's all about what your criteria is, you know? I might need to actually break this up to 18 minutes in already. It's going to be a long video because I'm very passionate about this topic, if you can't tell. Now, Carlos Condit wins. I mean, Frank Trigg, solid. That's a tournament win, though. Regular wins, Rory McDonald, very good. Another name I could have brought in there, Rory McDonald. Dan Hardy, Nick Diaz, Thiago Alves, and then Matt Brown. I think it's pretty solid pretty solid wins. I think the finishing rate, too, also gets it. And the brownie points for beating Robbie Lawler in the eyes of the people, not the judges. Anyways, I'm going to take a little break real quick, and we'll be right back. Anyways, lightweight, very obvious. I don't know why I took a break. He's my favorite fighter active, and my second favorite fighter of all time, GSP. I'm going to try to keep the glaze to a minimum, a strict minimum. I'm going to try not to spend 18 minutes on just this slide alone. That's the goal. Anyways, there's really no other guy I think that can be here. Some idiot's going to comment like, Justin Gaethje or Alakita or something stupid like that, but there is no other arguments. Dustin Poirier is the greatest lightweight to have never been an undisputed champion. Arguably the greatest fighter in general to have never been an undisputed champion. That's not the video point of the video. Anyways, Dustin's a great fighter, like I just said. Good boxing, good chin, cardio for days. That's a direct quote from him. Striking defense, I mean, like, is super underrated. Doesn't really get hit a lot. It does get, but doesn't get hard. You know, he's got very good striking defense. I feel like that's why he's been able to be around for so long, along with chin. I mean, he's very underrated high guard as well. I mean, he's always brawling, and he keeps up a good high guard. Make sure he doesn't get like clipped badly or like knocked out or anything crazy. I know he has, but he was an interim champion and he's consensus Hall of Famer based off his resume alone, so it doesn't even need the undisputed belt to get there, which is one of the very few cases where it's like they're going to, approve even without an undisputed title. Again, the records for his division, he's first in KO TKO wins. I think he's tied with Drew Dober, right? It's a tie. Anyways, he's third in significant strikes landed, fourth in knockdowns landed, and fifth in total strikes landed, which is, again, dominant striker. Very good striker, very good boxer. Collins, 9 losses. Danny Castillo, not a bad loss. TKZ, Cub Swanson, again, not bad. Those are at 45, though. Michael Johnson, the verdict's out on that one. I can't tell. I wouldn't say it's bad, but I wouldn't say it's good, because I don't know my verdict is on Michael Johnson. I'll be real. I have to do a whole, Batman analysis of Michael Johnson's career and determine whether he's actually good, bad, or he's just a streaky dude and we need to keep his wins at his wins and losses at a moderate. Because he has some crazy wins and some crazy bad losses. Not a Michael Johnson video. Shut up, buddy. Anyways, Connor's avenged. I don't care. It's avenged, bro. If you say if it's the argument it's 1-1 is stupid, Connor came into the fight with a broken leg, knew it was broken, and didn't check leg kicks. It's his fault. It's not like Weidman or Silva when it was one free kick. He was repeatedly getting kicked in the spot. He knew it was broken and he didn't check. It is your fault. It is not the doctor's fault. You are the idiot who came into a fight with a broken leg and didn't check leg kicks. Your fault, buddy. I'm sorry. Tell the Connor. Actually, I'm not sorry. I don't know if I said it. It is your fault. It's a stupid argument. Oh, it's 1-1. Real ones know it's 1-1. It's not, because Connor's just an idiot. That's what it is. And then the real 1-1 is Gaethje. That's up to you because they're both finishes. One was sooner, whatever. You can treat it as both a good loss and a good win, I would say. Called a little bias, but again, they're both finishes. If it was like Dustin beat him by 5-round decision and then Gaethje knocked him out, then I would be like, all right. Do people forget that Dustin knocked out Gaethje? Do people forget that? I think people forget that. Maybe I'm being a little salty Poirier fan right now, but it's whatever. Now the 3 title fight losses: Khabib, Do Bronx, and Islam. That's not bad at all, though. Especially because, again, like in the Islam one, you were an ankle pick away from winning. It was 2-2 in a lot of the just scorecards. Obviously, it was not 2-2, but if 2-2 in the scorecards, I emotionally had it 2-2, but it was not 2-2. Let's be real. It was not a 2-2 fight. You can say emotionally you had it 2-2, but it's not a 2-2, like logistically using the brain. But he could have arguably won because the judges had a 2-2. And then Khabib, you were just couple a little bit stronger, a little bit tighter of a gilly away, which that I can't. I know it sucks. He still lost, but Oliveira was just crushing, bro. He was cooked. Oliveira, you gave your back to Oliveira. You're getting back. You're just done. There's little nothing you can do. You got so that was just. I think that honestly, I know the Khabib one was emotionally low for Dustin, but I feel like for me personally, the lowest one emotionally is the Oliveira one. Because he just didn't. He just got ragdolled. He just didn't do anything like notable. At least in the Islam fight, he was kind of standing and banging with Islam, cut him up, gave him his toughest fight. Well, other than the Sarukian one, but honestly, probably the toughest fight in terms of visuals. And yada. And Dustin was super injured. Again, shut up. Not a Dustin video. Again, Hall of Fame worthy career. even with those losses, but it kind of sucks as always being remembered as the guy that just was that one thing short that fell short. It just sucks. It's gonna always gonna be remembered, but whatever, because here are the wins, man, and the wins make it good. Bobby Green, Jim Miller, Anthony Pettis, Justin Gaethje, Eddie Alvarez, Max Holloway. I'm only counting the second fight. Dan Hooker, Conor McGregor twice, and Michael Chandler. That is a phenomenal resume, top to bottom. Name a bad win. Who's the worst name out of those? And it's probably Bobby Green, but even then, Bobby Green isn't that bad. Like I said, you need to have your can wins to build your record for promotion. Your solid wins, your Bobby Green tier. And you need to have your solid like Bobby Green, Jim Miller tier. Your good wins like your Anthony Pettis, your Justin Gaethje. And you need to have like your all time, like your Max Holloway, your Conor McGregor, your like Eddie Alvarez. You know what I mean? And Michael Chandler also can go in that like solid tier. You gotta build up some wins. He's got wins in all shapes and sizes. That's what matters. Featherweight, I know there's going to be a lot of angry Chad Mendes fans. I'm going to try not to insult your boy, but we'll get to that. Just hear me out on Yair. We'll get to Con 3, and that's when we'll do Chad Mendes. I will not give you a timestamp, but you can probably skip. You can be patient here because you're probably old. No offense. Anyways, Yair, good fighter, great kickboxing game, very mobile, very explosive. He's got some freaky kicks and combos, man. Totally it's hypermobile EDS or some sort of hypermobility, no doubt. It's very interesting what he can do. Interim champ who's fought very good comp. I mean, we'll get into the wins and losses later on, Lord willing, but good comp. He's sixth in KOs and TKO wins, eighth in significant strikes landed, ninth in both wins and total strikes landed in UFC featherweight history. Pretty good. 4 losses. Well, one of them's 1-1, which is Ortega, which again is not a bad loss. Frankie Edgar, legend. If Edgar didn't have the belt at 155, he'd be my 45 pick. His 45 resume is absurd. Go look into it. He was arguably in my top 5 featherweights. It's absurd how good his featherweight resume is. It's super. No one talks about it. He was a better featherweight than he was as a lightweight, and he wasn't even a champion. It makes no sense. Maybe that's a hot take. I think that's my hot take for the day. My 100th probably. Prime Volk, nothing there. Max Holloway, like, really? We're really gonna say, oh, he sucks. He lost 4 times. Really? Prime Volk, Frankie Edgar, Max Holloway, Brian Ortega. Then it's a 1-1 with Brian Ortega. Really? All right. Thank you. Anyways, again, you're losing to 3 champions, 3 Hall of Famers, and a very good fighter in Ortega. Like, it's not that bad. Now, he only lost his 4 more title shot to Volk, which again, like, it has to be a knock for video's sake, but like not really that bad in the grand scheme of title fight losses. You ran into it, the buzzsaw that was Prime Volkanovski, who's just beating everybody. Now this is Con 3. Hopefully the Mendes fans waited. Call me crazy. Call me a youngin' who doesn't know what he's talking about. Call me stupid. Call me the other word I can't say on YouTube. Chad Mendes has 4 good wins. Let's be real. He has 4 good wins, even though they're debatably good. His comp wasn't actually that great. Let's be real. He just lost to guys that were really good, which I think doesn't imply that you're really good. That's the implication that everybody makes. But I think it's a stupid argument. Whatever. Still, he gets a mention. Ortega. I know he beat Yair recently, but we're just gonna push to the side. We're just gonna ignore that because we're all good. Okay. TKZ, Cub Swanson, Jeremy Stevens, even guys like Arnold Allen or Diego Lopez could get on here. If you want to call it recency bias, you sure can, but Lopez doesn't need much more to be on here. I'm gonna be real. If he never fights Taporia and he keeps beating guys, like if he fights Volk and you know what I mean? Anyways, yeah, he's got some strong wins and strong losses. Anyways, here are the strong wins: Dan Hooker, Andre Fili, Alex Caceres, BJ Penn, TKZ, Jeremy Stevens, Brian Ortega, if it counts, I count it, and Josh Emmett. Very good comp. We have to give him a little brownie points because he's a non-champion. Very good comp for a non-champion. Bantamweight, this is probably one of the weirdest picks. I'll be real. I know this is everybody's pick, and I wanted to give him some love because I like Uriah Faber. We'll get into it. I read his book. It was pretty cool. Uriah Faber, good fighter, good writer, good book. At the end of the day, no matter what happened, no matter how it ended, he was a good fighter. Great wrestling, good jiu-jitsu, had the cardio to push the pace and grapple a lot. Decent stand-up. He's a 3 promotion champion, 2 division champion. Mainly known for the WEC featherweight, but he's got some other stuff down there that was good at the time. He's a pioneer, man. He's the most subs in UFC bantamweight history, along with being 3rd in finishes, 5th in both wins and total fights. A lot of longevity, and you pair that with a 77% finishing clip, that's really good. That's why you get on the list. Longevity, good comp, finishes. Right there is the whole slideshow done, but I'm going to keep going. 11 losses. I'll go through some of them just so we understand how good the comp was. I'm not going to go through point by point, obviously, but WEC Aldo when he was young and angry and was in his, well, when does Aldo's prime begin and end? That's another video for another day. But you can call it Prime Aldo. Dominic Cruz twice, and if he beat him at 145, but he was inexperienced Cruz, whatever. Renan Barão twice, Frankie Edgar, Piotr Jan. Now, dude, those are all champions, and 2 of those are like, well, Dom Cruz definitive GOAT. Aldo's arguably the GOAT of his weight class, like arguable GOATs of the weight class. You're really gonna sit here and tell me Uriah Faber is bad because he lost to GOATs of the weight classes that he was in? That is a stupid argument. Again, very clear cut. I mean, some of the losses to knock him for Mike Brown twice, but again, Mike Brown just randomly had the dude's number. It makes no sense. And Jaime Rivera, I'm not sure where the verdict is. Kind of a Michael Johnson one. He's on a lot of lists, but I don't really know. I don't really think of him as being super high, highly valued. But whatever. Losing 3 title shots sucks, especially when it's Dominic Cruz twice and you don't like him and also the bad blood there, but they've resolved it. And then Barão isn't awful. I mean, the real issue is his just career looks weird on paper because it's 35-11 and he fought a lot of cans. But again, it was the pioneership. He gets the pioneership pass. He had to fight cans because it was literally getting anybody off the street that could throw a punch. You know what I mean? But he still has good comp, though. We'll get into the good comp. But it's the longevity for me, even though he kind of fought cans, he gets the longevity pass and the pioneership pass. You're going to run into cans and you do it for a while. I want to honestly maybe go through this video again or go through this one again, see how he stacks up. I did briefly for this one, I'll be real. Between Marlon Moraes, one that came to mind, Rafael Escounso, and then Sanhagen. There's probably more guys that come to mind, but those are the 3 names that's they could take the spot from Uriah. But here's the fun part, man. Uriah Favors wins. Get ready, ladies and gentlemen. Get ready. Crazy Horse Bennett. I don't know why I put that in here, but I did. Jens Pulver twice. Why? I don't know. Rafael Escounso. Takaya Mizugaki. I mean, he fought good comp. He has to be pretty decent, right? Eddie Wineland. Brian Bowles. I saw him high on a lot of lists. Scott Jorgensen. Alex Caceres. Brad Pickett. And Ricky Simeone. Simeone's solid. Solid. These are solid guys here. I think it's definitely decent comp overall. We have to factor in the fact that he fought for so long. He saw so much different types of comp and how the game evolved. So you got to give him that pass there. And high finishing rate also gets the nod. Anyways, we are down to our last guy. Flyweight, Joseph Benavidez. I think this one's kind of much of a lock. It's Dustin Poirier at lightweight, man. Benavidez, good fighter, very versatile, good jiu-jitsu, obviously. Solid power, good stand-up game, super well-rounded. Nothing jumps off the page, but what jumps off the page is how nothing jumps off the page, if you know what I'm saying. He fought great comp for a long time. I mean, 2006, 2021 is a very good career for you. He's a pioneer of the sport, again, just like Uriah Faber. I mean, I went to the same gym and all that stuff. A lot of similarities there. I think he should go into the Hall of Fame. Honestly, let's pause the video here for a second. Hall of Fame class, picture it. All right, close your eyes. Hall of Fame class, 2027. Dominic Cruz, Mighty Mouse, Benavidez, and Killishaw, all on stage together. Throw in some other guys. I think it's 6 people know how to do a Hall of Fame. Let's picture those 4 guys together in their suits with their plaques. What a Hall of Fame class. That's what the UFC needs to do. We need to start having classes that are themed. They're themed for something. Do like a heavyweight class and put in you know what I mean? Theme these classes. Don't just throw in random people together. Theme these classes, bro. Make it make sense. And you can honestly put Uriah Faber in the non-modern wing because he did fight before Unified MMA. If my memory serves me correctly. No, he did. No, he did. Did he? No, he fought Unified MMA. I don't know. Whatever. They'll figure it out. But imagine a themed weight class where it was like maybe even Cody gets in there. I don't think Cody would. No. Yeah. Cody versus Dillashaw 1 could get them both in. If we think about it, phenomenal fight. I know it ended up finished early, but still phenomenal fight. I think that could get in the Hall of Fame potentially. Zoe Rubovic should get in the Hall of Fame. I figure it'd be very random one, but it'll get in there. That's 10 years down the road. Back to flyweight and Benavidez. Most wins, most TKO/KO wins, most fights. I mean, fourth in finishes and knockdowns, six in total strikes landed. Very good, well-rounded. Shows it right there. Finisher, good on the feet, all that, yada yada yada. Now gone 6 losses, sucks. None of them really bad losses though. I guess you could knock him for Sergio Pettis, but I don't really, I don't know. Fight resumes are weird. I feel like Sergio Pettis, in my brain is telling me consider him decent, but I don't really know enough about Sergio Pettis, so forgive me for not being a Sergio Pettis expert. Obviously, real issues losing 4 title shots to Figgy and DJ. I mean, what it really came down to in the end, though, Figgy was younger, more powerful, and DJ was faster and had more skill. That's what it was. Benavidez was only so good to a point, only so rounded to a point. He couldn't get that 1% better just to touch the belt, which kind of sucks. But overall, though, he has some good wins with Miguel Torres, Eddie Wineland, Ian McCall, Jessica Formiga twice, Tim Elliott, Dustin Ortiz, John Mararaga, Henry Cejudo by 1 point. I know I'm placing Cejudo, and then Alex Perez. Pretty solid wins. Anyways, I don't know why I put a picture of Cowboy Cerrone in. I'm playing a lot of Red Dead though. Kind of reminds me of it. I could do that. That'd be a good video, bro. UFC fighters as Cowboys. Who would be the best, but unorthodox picks? Yeah, I'm doing that video. That's gonna get me. That's gonna get me past Lucas Tracy. That's my magnum opus right there. I'm gonna wake up with 100K subscribers after that one drops. Anyways, back in the swing of things. Hopefully, thanks for watching and God bless.